I'm Tom from Do It Yourself Home Automation, and this is a demo of how the COVID-19 switch hook door tool can protect you from, potentially protect you from contamination on surfaces in the environment during a pandemic like COVID-19. So this is a really cool device from a friend. It's basically a touch tool like you may have seen online, but this one is open source and 3D printed, and it has a hook that recesses inside of this handle. And the idea is that with other tools, when you touch a contaminated surface and then put the hook back in your bag or whatever, you may just be transferring contamination, versus with the switch hook, the concept is that because that hook recesses inside, it's actually protecting you, and then you can go and sterilize or decontaminate that later. So let's test how it actually works. To do this, I've mixed up some of this ultraviolet fluorescent powder with some petroleum jelly. And this is going to simulate the kind of gunky stuff you might get from a sneeze if you had the virus and sneezed onto your hand. So I'm going to just contaminate my gloved hand here with some of this. Let's imagine that I just sneezed onto my hand here, kind of gross. Then I'm going to go ahead and touch a surface in the environment. So I'm going to touch this doorknob, open this like I would if I was opening a door. Now let's get out a black light, and we'll hit this with a black light and see how much of that was transferred. Okay, so that's kind of gross. You can see I'm hitting this. This is representing the germs that would have been transferred on that kind of oozy sneeze. You can see quite a lot of that is on the door handle here. So if I went and touched that and got it on my hand, you can imagine that I could easily transfer those germs that this is representing onto my mouth or into my nose if I touched my face, which obviously you're not supposed to do, but we all do. So the idea with the switch hook is that it can protect me from that. And let's go ahead and test it out. So you can see with the switch hook, just to start, not really any contamination on the device itself. Now let's go to this door handle. I'm going to go ahead and swing it open like I would. I'm going to use that to open the door like I would use out in the environment. And then let's take a look at the hook itself. So as you can imagine, it looks like we definitely had some transfer. You can see the glowing bits around the sides there. Some transfer of the material and those germs from the door onto the switch hook. That's to be anticipated. And again, that's saving you from getting that onto your hands. Now I'm going to go ahead and swing this closed. And let's take a look at the surface here. And you can see, because of the way that this works, all of that contamination. You don't see any glowing on the body. No really significant glowing on my hands, other than the areas where I might just have like a fluorescent laundry detergent or something, but no significant contamination transferring over from that onto my hands or onto the body of the device. And that's the concept. When I open it up again, I bet that contamination, yep, it's still there. So it's not getting rid of it, it's just containing it inside of the handle, as it's supposed to do. And then the final step, we'll go ahead and clean that off. So imagine I got home, I've touched all of these yucky contaminated surfaces out in the environment. Why don't I go home and I'll see how we can clean this off. Okay, so there's two methods that work well. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. I can either wipe it down with a wipe here. I've just got a disinfecting wipe. Or probably the even easier method, I can just put this under water, run this under some water. I could get some soap on there and really clean that gooey stuff off. I'm doing this one-handed, so it's a little hard to demo that, but I'll do it after I finish this video. Let that dry fully. And you might do this, when you get home from an outing, if you're concerned about the contamination. Let this dry fully, and then we'll run it under the black light and see what happens. Okay. So I'm running this under the black light. There's still a little bit of residual material. Let me wash it a little better under soap and water, like I said I would do. Okay, and after a good wash of that tip area there under soap and water, you can see that the contamination is almost entirely eliminated. So again, what is this demonstrating about the switch hook COVID-19 door tool? The concept is that, as you saw, if you do have somebody that contaminates their hands and touches a surface in a public environment, you could very easily transfer that over to your hands if you touched it. Let's actually just see what that looks like. One second. Yeah, let's go back to that doorknob. I'm going to grab this without the switch hook. Like I just touched that doorknob. I can't really see anything on my hands. Now let's take a look at them under the black light. pretty substantial contamination. So again, if you're out there, somebody contaminates a surface with the virus or anything else, and you end up touching that, you definitely get some transfer to your hands. However, as we demonstrated with the switch hook here, if you use that hook, maybe there's a little contamination that does transfer to the hook. We saw that, but because of the way it recesses into the body here, it seems like it's keeping that fairly well contained. Then when you get home, you can actually clean that off. As you saw, just wiping it down didn't work as well for me. Running it under soap and water is what I ultimately did, and scrubbing it a little bit, and that seemed to remove all of that contamination pretty readily from it. Again, I think this is potentially a great thing to use because with other hooks, you might just be transferring that contamination around, versus with this, it seems like it's doing a pretty good job of containing it, keeping it away from your hands and your other belongings until you can get home and actually sanitize that with, again, soap and water seem to work pretty well. This is a pretty good analog for germs just because it does have that sticky, oily kind of consistency, which the research indicates is the makeup of the COVID-19 coronavirus. It has a lipid layer, so it has that sticky, oily quality. That's probably why soap and water is a good way to clean off your switch hook. Again, this is definitely not a scientific test. You should still observe all the normal procedures about washing your hands, social distancing, all of that. But I think it's a good demo of the concept here and how this does seem to contain the contamination inside the body of the device so that you're not just transferring it to your other belongings. If you want to make your own, you can get the files for this on Thingiverse. Again, I'll put the link in the comments below. It is open source and it's 3D printable, so you can make this at home, hardware free. If you found this helpful in any way, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps.